You know what I've learned over the years? God rarely promotes without a test. And 9 times out of 10, that test comes dressed like a person you can barely stand. That coworker who gossips about you behind your back. That family member who manipulates every conversation. That client who acts like you're beneath them. Those aren't just random people, they are mirrors. And not mirrors to show you who they are, but to reveal who you are becoming. God is not just in the business of blessing you, he's in the business of building you. And how does he build you? He sends people that challenge your ego, confront your triggers, and stretch your patience so you can see where your growth really is. Because it's easy to be kind to kind people. It's easy to be patient when everyone is applauding you. But can you be consistent when someone disrespects you? Can you remain composed when someone slanders your name? That's the test. Oh, let me be real. I used to think difficult people were distractions, but now I understand they're part of the curriculum. I used to ask God, why do I keep running into these kinds of people? And God whispered back, because I'm trying to show you. See, it's not just about them, it's about what rises up in you when they show up. Do you get defensive? Do you shrink back? Do you try to clap back in your flesh? Or do you remember who you are, whose you are, and let their chaos expose your character, not break it? I remember a time early in my career when I had a partner who seemed committed to misunderstanding me. Everything I said, he twisted. Every decision I made, he questioned. I prayed, God, remove him. And you know what God said? No, I'm not trying to change him. I'm trying to strengthen you. That man taught me more about leadership than any book ever did. Not because he was wise, but because he was hard. And what I had to learn was this: I don't grow by avoiding difficulty. I grow by rising above it. Difficult people are divine mirrors. They don't shape your destiny, but they show you what still needs healing in you. You can't walk in divine power and still be controlled by petty offenses. You can't pray for promotion and then get bitter when God uses people to refine you. You can't declare yourself a leader and fall apart every time someone challenges you. Because the next level you're praying for, it comes with more resistance, not less. And here's the kicker. Sometimes you are the difficult person in someone else's life. That's why you need humility. That's why you need grace. That's why you need discernment. Because we're all being refined. And God uses relationships, especially the hard ones, to do the deepest work. So don't curse the mirror. Don't try to break the mirror. Don't throw it out. Look into it. Ask God, what are you showing me through this person? What are you developing in me? Because when you stop fighting the mirror, you start stepping into maturity. And when you start growing, those difficult people lose their power, not because they've changed, but because you have. There's a difference, a life-changing difference between reacting and responding. See, reacting is automatic. It's emotional. It's driven by your flesh, by your ego, by that part of you that wants to win the argument even if you lose a relationship. But responding is intentional, it's spiritual. It's the decision to let wisdom speak louder than your wounds. Most people never realize this, but every time you're faced with conflict, especially with difficult people, you are presented with a divine fork in the road. One path is familiar. React. Snap back, clap back, get the last word, prove your point, defend your pride. That path might feel good for a moment, but it almost always leaves damage behind. The other path, slower, more mature, much quieter. It's called response. And it's where your power actually lives. See, reacting is rooted in insecurity. It says, if I don't speak now, I'll be seen as weak. But response is rooted in identity. It says, because I know who I am, I don't have to fight battles that don't matter. And I get it. We've all had moments where something was said, a button was pushed, and before you knew it, words were flying and respect was gone. But let me tell you, the most dangerous moment in a conversation isn't when they offend you. It's when you forget your authority and match their energy instead of maintaining your character. I remember years ago, a man stood up in a room full of people and tried to embarrass me, lied about me, questioned my integrity. And I felt the heat rise. I felt my pride scream, fix this, shut him down, show these people who you really are. But right in that moment, the Holy Spirit whispered, silence speaks louder than defense when you're walking in authority. So I paused, I breathed, I smiled, and I didn't say a word. Not because I was weak, but because I was walking in something he couldn't take away from me, peace. Because here's the truth. You don't lose power by staying silent. You lose power when you surrender control of yourself. You've got to understand that every reaction costs you something. It costs you focus, it costs you peace, it costs you spiritual elevation. And every time you choose to react out of emotion instead of respond with purpose, you trade short-term satisfaction for long-term progress. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you let the Spirit lead instead of your ego, that's where miracles happen. That's when you rise above gossip. That's when you refuse to be baited into foolishness. That's when you start choosing destiny over drama. Because, let me be clear, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to swing at every pitch. You don't need to engage every insult. Just because someone comes at you reckless doesn't mean you need to meet them at that level. That's not how kings operate. That's not how queens move. Think about Jesus, betrayed, accused, mocked, and yet silent before Pilate. Why? Because when you know your destiny, you don't waste energy proving yourself to people who can't see it anyway. You don't need to prove the truth when you embody it. So the next time someone tries to pull you out of character, don't reach for your pride, reach for your purpose. Don't default to your feelings, default to your faith. Your response is your responsibility. And the more you grow, the more you'll realize winning doesn't come from speaking louder, it comes from standing strong. Reacting is easy, responding is divine. And in that pause, in that moment where you choose to hold your peace instead of unleash your fury, that's where transformation begins. There comes a point in your walk, if you're serious about your growth, your calling, and your purpose, where you've got to decide that you're not fighting battles the world's way anymore. You've got to stop swinging with your words and start standing with your spirit. Because here's the truth, you will never overcome a spiritual battle with fleshly weapons. You can argue all day, clap back, post your feelings on social media, call 10 people to vent, but none of that will bring peace. None of that brings breakthrough. All it does is feed the fire. All it does is keep you on the same level as the chaos you're trying to escape from. The enemy isn't after your opinion, he's after your posture. He wants to see if you'll drop your armor and pick up your anger. He wants to pull you out of your assignment by keeping you stuck in arguments. He knows if he can keep you fighting in the flesh, he can keep you from walking in power. But when you realize the battle isn't against people, it's against principalities, you start changing your strategy. You stop trying to win with words and you start conquering in the spirit. I remember being in a situation where someone had lied about me, blatantly tried to damage my name, twist my words, make me look like something I wasn't. My flesh, it was ready. I had every receipt. I had every right to defend myself. But then God dropped this in my spirit. You can either defend your reputation or I can establish your name, but you can't do both. So instead of responding with fury, I went to my real weapons. Prayer, praise, and the word. Because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They're mighty through God. They don't just shut mouths. They pull down strongholds. They shift atmospheres. They heal hearts. And they protect peace in a way words never could. We live in a culture that says match their energy, but the kingdom says carry God's presence. We live in a time where everybody's trying to go viral with a comeback, but the Spirit says, Humble yourself and let me vindicate you. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't speak louder, it's stand still. Sometimes the greatest victory comes when you refuse to fight on the enemy's terms. You don't overcome difficult people by out-arguing them. You overcome them by operating from a place they don't have access to. You stay in the Spirit, you stay rooted in truth. You fight on your knees, not in your feelings. Because when you fight in the Spirit, you don't just protect your peace, you protect your future. Think about how Jesus handled opposition. He had the power to call down legions of angels. He had the authority to silence every critic. But what did he do? He stayed focused. He stayed faithful because he knew the cross was greater than the conflict. And you have to know the same. Your purpose is too big to keep getting distracted by people who are small in spirit. Your mission is too important to keep battling every voice that rises against you. So pick up your real weapons. Let praise be your protest. Let worship be your war cry. Let the word of God be your sword. Don't stoop to pettiness when God's calling you to power. Don't let people drag you down to a level that God already brought you out of. You're not called to match the world's energy. You're called to shift the atmosphere with your authority. You don't fight to be right, you stand to be righteous. And that's how you win every single time. One of the greatest mistakes we make in life, especially as believers, is confusing assignment with access. Just because someone is in your life doesn't mean they belong in your inner life. Just because God sent you to someone doesn't mean they're supposed to stay close to you. And if you don't understand this, you'll keep giving front row seats in your life to people who were never supposed to be in the room. Let me make it plain. Not everybody who walks with you is walking for you. Some people are with you for the benefits, not the battles. Some are connected to your elevation, not your transformation. And some, if you're honest, are in your life because you won't release them, not because God assigned them. There's a moment in Jesus' life that speaks volumes. He's headed to raise a little girl from the dead. And the crowd is pressing in, shouting, watching. But when it's time to enter the room, the place where the miracle was about to happen, Jesus didn't bring everyone. He only brought 3, Peter, James, and John. Why? Because he understood miracles require the right atmosphere, and the wrong people can kill what God is trying to raise. And some of you, hear me, you've been asking, why am I stuck? Why isn't the breakthrough happening? It's not that God isn't moving. It's that you keep dragging people into the room who are draining the air. They don't believe in the vision. They don't carry your spirit. They're not aligned with your purpose. And yet you keep giving them access they haven't earned and trust they haven't stewarded. God will give you assignments. Yes, to love people, to lead people, to serve them. But assignment doesn't mean alignment. Assignment doesn't mean covenant. Just because you're called to help someone doesn't mean you have to link arms with them. Jesus washed Judas's feet, but he didn't invite Judas into his prayer closet. That's access. That's sacred space. And if you're going to walk in power, you've got to learn how to separate the mission from the inner circle. Some people are seasonal. They were never meant to go the full distance with you. And yet, out of guilt, out of history, out of comfort, you keep holding on. But holding on to the wrong person can cost you your peace, your focus, and even your next level. Because when your circle is full of distraction, your spirit stays in defense mode. You're constantly explaining yourself, justifying your boundaries, managing their emotions. And while you're doing all that, your calling is waiting. You've got to get to the point where you stop apologizing for protecting your purpose. You've got to be okay with saying, I love you, but I can't let you in that far anymore. That's not arrogance. That's discernment. That's stewardship. And when you start operating from that level of clarity, God can start trusting you with greater, because here's the truth. God can't elevate what you won't separate. He can't release you into the next season if you're still tethered to people who are only meant for the last one. There are some doors that will only open when you've trimmed the access. There are some blessings that require a clear atmosphere. Not because God is petty, but because he's protective of your destiny. And let's be clear, removing access doesn't mean removing love. You can love someone fully and still say, you don't get to speak into my spirit like that anymore. You can forgive them and still move forward without them, because maturity isn't just who you surround yourself with, it's who you're willing to walk away from. So don't confuse your heart with your assignment. Don't confuse compassion with covenant. Be kind, be loving, be spirit-led, but be wise. Guard your gates, discern your inner circle, and know the difference between those who are called to you and those who are just close to you.